Greetings everybody, it's Kaz here, and today we are talking some incredibly, really timely news, or should I say a leak, for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild release date. Now, the reason this is pretty timely is because I was actually going to do a predictions video regarding the Nintendo Switch event happening January 12th. And I was just going to go over some of the predictions I had, and one of them was going to be the fact that I still stood by the fact, despite a number of sources saying the opposite, I stood by the fact that Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was going to make launch day for the Switch, and a brand new leak from the CoroCoro magazine over in Japan seems to prove that. So as a bit of background first up, there were tweets earlier today from Laura Kate Dale discussing this exact issue regarding the release date for Breath of the Wild, and she said things along the line of her previous sources in Nintendo of Europe stood by the fact that they believed the game would be coming out sometime later, would not make Switch launch, maybe in the June or July area, while the North American side of Nintendo stood by the fact that the Switch would make launch day. Now, she said in these tweets she had no idea why the two sides were on some sort of different page regarding the release of the Nintendo Switch. It's plausible, I guess, that the European release of the game may come after the American release of the game, but that doesn't really make any sense, and this whole miscommunication between the two parties does seem pretty bizarre. But this source in Nintendo of America is one that Laura Kate had not used before, and that source stood by the fact that Zelda would make launch day. So it really, in terms of that information that we got earlier today, it's really just who you believe, really just creating a bit of a battlefield in which Nintendo fans have to choose a side of what they really believe the date would be. But news that broke literally at the time I'm recording this, like half an hour ago, like this is brand new stuff. This leak from CoroCoro, it's an image from an upcoming edition of the CoroCoro magazine that has been posted online, and that image states that Zelda Breath of the Wild will be launching in spring of 2017. Now, in terms of the legitimacy of this leak, CoroCoro, in terms of what they've leaked in the past, specifically for Pokemon, that's what they've been known for leaking in the past, they've never really been wrong. They've been right almost 100% of the time, so they've got a very good track record. The only thing that could come into question about this leak is the legitimacy of the photo taken itself. It could be a Photoshop. CoroCoro is very reliable, but is the image reliable that you were most likely seeing right now on screen? It could be a Photoshop. I personally doubt it. I'm going to stand by my original prediction that I was going to post later this week anyway. I'm going to stand by that prediction and say that I still stand by the fact that Nintendo Switch will launch with Breath of the Wild as one of its launch titles. And now that doesn't seem to just be a prediction from myself. That seems to have very plausible sources backing that up. Now, keep in mind, as I've stated, the leak only specifically states that Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild will launch in spring of 2017. As I said, I believe the leak, but keep in mind, spring doesn't mean the specific launch day of the Switch. Spring comes into account March, April, and May, as I assume you know. So, as we know, the Switch is obviously launching sometime in March. I would predict early March. And just because the fact that it's spring doesn't indicate specifically that it's going to make launch day. But the two sources, one is saying past spring, June, July, August perhaps time, and the other one is sticking with March launch day. And with if you take those two sources and those two arguments into account, and if this states that it's launching in spring, then you have to kind of piece it together and assume that most likely it will be launching on launch day with the Switch. But do keep in mind, take that with a grain of salt, take this whole thing with a grain of salt, but specifically take this with a grain of salt, because it could be launching in May, 2 months after the Switch. Just keep that in mind. But with all of that crap ton of information, what do you guys think? Do you believe this? Do you not? When do you think Zelda Breath of the Wild will be launching? Make sure you let me know in the comment section below. I'm super excited for Breath of the Wild. I'm super excited for the Switch January 12th event, so I cannot wait. I'll be covering that here on the channel, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. But that's enough from me today. Make sure you let me know. I'll see you guys in the next video, and until our next encounter, have a great day.